Coming up in this episode, one staying, one gone, one once gone, and scores and scorers from the major rugby league games from this weekend in the men's and women's game. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. NRL Dominance. Anthony here. Please remember to like and subscribe, and also click that notification bell if you're enjoying what you're seeing and if you want to continue seeing more. Well, I've had the day off in rugby league terms. That's quite a long time, I'm afraid, and I do apologise about that. So I'm going to bring you a story where we see an episode where we see a lot of rugby league stories, as well as the results and scorelines from the NRL and the Challenge Cup games that were played in the men's and women's draw. But first, we're going to start with St George Illawarra Dragons, as the news I have been rocked by the announcement of Ben Hunt deciding that his future lies away from the club and has sought out his immediate release. Sent a bombshell through the club on Saturday when report surfaces that he had requested his future to be at another club, even though he is currently in the camp with his Queensland State of Origin teammates, where preparations for Game 2 of the series in Brisbane are ongoing for the match on Wednesday. The decision from the halfback comes after months of turmoil at the club, which ultimately ended with Anthony Griffin being sacked as a coach. Shane Flanagan was then appointed this week. Hunt seemingly endorsed the move of Flanagan coming in midweek, but by the weekend wanted out of the club following what was an unsettling first half of the 2023 season for both the halfback on and off the field, with a handful of shaky performances backed up by multiple comments around his future. With that, both the club and Flanagan himself came out to say that Hunt's future lay with the Dragons, as he has a contract with the club. The club going the furthest by announcing out that Hunt was to stay and see out his contract at least. In their statement, the Dragons can confirm that today the club received a request from the management of Ben Hunt for a release from his playing contract. This release was denied. Ben is contracted through to the end of the 2025 season and is a big part of our current and future plans for the Dragons as a club, as the club builds towards achieving sustained success in coming years, said Dragons CEO Ryan Webb. We're committed to working with Ben to understand and address his concerns, as we all have the same goals of building a strong and successful club. Hunt is due to appear for the Red V in round 17 just 48 hours after Origin 2 against the New Zealand Warriors, but they're not sure that he may not be able to follow that up. Since then, there has been rumours about his future coming out even more, as reports from Fox Rugby League, Fox League NRL 360 has said that the Roosters have emerged as a shock destination for once-away Dragon star Ben Hunt after the bombshell was dropped. The Roosters are the third team after the Bulldogs and the Titans to be revealed as a potential suitors for Hunt, but the list is sure to grow in the near future. While many reporters like James Hooper of Fox League have confirmed Roosters' interest in Queensland star on Monday night, there are other pundits like the Daily Telegraph's Phil Rothwell who isn't sure that the Roosters are interested, pointing to a conversation with the club's chairman Nick Politis. According to Rothfield, he said, "I did speak to Nick Politis today and he insisted they are heavily invested in Sam Walker and Luke Geary for this season and next. I spoke to Nick too and he said the same to me about how they are invested in Kieran Walker, but I started to think to myself, Matt Lodge is going and Joseph Suaalii could be moving on. They dropped Sam Walker earlier in the season and I thought there could be a level of interest here. that was actually from Babe Anasta who said that. So no matter what happens, Ben Hunt is going to be a wanted commodity, whether it's by his actual club or any suitors that are out there in the NRL. Be interesting to see if he gets the release this week or this season, or will he have to see out his contract? Like Joy fans, you tell me what's going on. Now we come to the news that everyone was expecting, to be honest, as Warrington, Wolves and Josh Maguire have parted ways after the forward was given his second massive ban due to apparent things that were allegedly said to a league player once again for the second time this season. Maguire had already sat out 7 of the Super League start of the season games when Warrington were riding a high due to comments made in a pre-season friendly against Leigh Leopards. He was given a monster ban by the RFL disciplinary board, and this has come up again as an alleged comment between Leigh Leopards, Josh Charnley and Wolves Maguire has seen the Australian forward banned for a massive 12 games. A total of 19 games missed out would have been the case if will be the case during this 2023 season. Maguire has played 7 games for Warrington, but now has flown back to Australia after getting his release. In the short statement via the club's website, it said Warrington Wolves can confirm that Josh Maguire has left the club by mutual agreement with immediate effect. Maguire has now returned to Australia with his family. We wish Josh well in his next chapter. Maguire, who has played now 266 top-flight club games in both sides of the world, has now got time to look for a club, serve out the ban, and then return to playing rugby league at a high level as possible. He is a forward that has appeared for Queensland 14 times, so is an undoubted quality player, so should have no trouble finding a club. His last club down in the NRL was St George Illawarra Dragons, where he played 27 games and scored 2 tries. Prior to this, it was North Queensland Cowboys with 38 games. This was after joining from Brisbane Broncos, where he made his debut and played 194 games and 11 tries scored. For Warrington, this is now a second big front rower big forward, big name, big size, whatever, forward that they have lost after losing Thomas McKaylee earlier in the season to Gold Coast Titans and have yet to replace him. It's not coincidence that the 2 players leaving have also coincided with Warrington's form being on the slide of recent weeks. Yes, winning games, but no longer unbeaten and no longer at the top of the table. Heck, I don't think they're in the top 2. They've just been knocked out of the Challenge Cup as well. We'll talk about that in a little moment. And our final bit of news before we go on to the results service is that Wigan Warriors head coach Matt Peet says that the Warriors are delighted to build the club around Ethan Havard after the England prop committed his long-term future to the club. The 22-year-old has put pen to paper on a new 4-year deal that will see him stay at the club until at least the end of the 2027 season. Havard has already made more than 70 appearances for Wigan since making his first team debut in 2019. He has also put on the England shirt in his debut in the French win earlier this season. The Bulgarian-born front rower put in a powerhouse display to help the Warriors beat Warrington in the Challenge Cup. More on that in a bit. With Pete revealing after the game that Havard had committed to his future to the club. Pete said, "It's massive for us. We don't like talking too much about individuals, about where they are in and when they are not in, but I was very confident that Ethan would make a big impact. His pick for England just before he got injured. I know what he's capable of, and I know how many minutes he's played for us, how fit he is. I think he's knocking 80 minutes out without too much concern. I think he's a player we are delighted to be able to build the club around over the next 4 years, because he's committed his future to the club, which is a huge statement of intent from him to us. And I'm looking forward to working with him and seeing him develop. He is already a really good front rower and a really good bloke, but I think he can be whatever he wants. Havard himself spoke about the deal, saying, "I'm proud to play here and pull on the jersey every week. The club is building and I'm excited to see what the future holds for me at this club." Havard is a top young player and could go on to massive things. Surprised that he's not turning too many eyes in the NRL, as the young forward puts on lung-busting displays, as I said, week in, week out. Let's move on to the NRL results, as there were 3 games played on Saturday and 1 played on Sunday to complete round 16 of this truncated NRL round. Another one due to Origin commitments. Saturday saw 3 games. First of all, we had the Newcastle Knights playing the Sydney Roosters, then Parramatta Eels faced the Manly Seagulls, and West Tigers versus the Melbourne Storm saw out Saturday's results, while Sunday had Cronulla Sharks versus the Bulldogs. Saturday opened up at the McDonald Jones Stadium with the Roosters beating the Knights 18 points to 16, with the Roosters scoring 18 points in the first half. Nat Butcher, Josie Manu and Daniel Tupou all went over for a tries apiece, while Luke Geary converted 2 of the 3 attempts, before a penalty goal from Sandon Smith saw the 18 points to 6 half-time lead, where Dom Youngod opened the scoring for the Knights, with Hastings picking the conversion. Young got his second in the second half before Bradman Best scored in the 68th minute, which was converted by Hastings for the total of 16 points and 10 in the second half for the Knights. The Roosters did enough to win though, and came away with the 2 competition points. We move on to Combank Stadium now, as the Eels beat the Seagulls 34 points to 4. The first try was scored by Offa Hickey Ogden on the 9th minute, benefiting off KO Weeks being sent to the sin bin. Bailey Simonson scored on the 14th minute, before Christian Tuipulotu scored on the 22nd minute for the Seagulls, only points of the game. Clint Gutherson and Jermaine Hopgood both got a try apiece before half-time, before Simonson got his second, and Baker Makatoa scored on the 75th minute to close out the game. Gutherson kicked over 5 from his 6 attempts, but Ogden, who opened the scoring, also found himself in the sin bin on the 79th minute as the game closed out 34 points to 4 to the Eels. We now move on to the Storm, as they beat the West Tigers at Campbelltown Sports Stadium, as they racked up 28 points to 6 over the Tigers. Will Warbrick was undoubtedly the star of the show for the point scoring, as he got 4 tries on the board, 2 in each half. Tyron Wishart scored in between those, and Kane Bradley scored to the final try of the game. 2 from 6 from Nick Meaney is not a good kick in return, but they were difficult kicks. Special mention for Alex Twell, who scored his first NRL try in 116 games ever attempted. Brandon Wakeham added the conversion for the Tigers, but it wasn't enough for the win, definitely not. Sunday saw the Sharks pull off a massive victory over the Bulldogs 48 points to 10. It was 8 tries to 2 in this game, with Teague Wilton, Hamlin Hualey even going over, Ronaldo Militalo, Cameron Innes, Jack Williams, Thomas Hazelton, Britton Nikora and Jesse Remain, all getting a try apiece throughout this entire match. Cal Flanagan and Curtis Morin were the try scorers for the Bulldogs. Nico Hines kicked 7 from 8, as he's looking like he's disappointed that Mitchell Moses got the nod ahead of him for Origin 2, and Cal Flanagan kicked over for the Bulldogs. A penalty from Hines. The job was done in the first half though, with 30 points on the board to 4 against the Bulldogs. Let's carry on with this results service format as we go and look into the Betfred Women's Challenge Cup quarter-final results. The weekend opened up on Saturday with the Leeds Rhinos women facing off against Lee Leopards, and it was a 54 points to 0 victory for the Headingley team. England international Kira Bennett opened the scoring on the 10th minute, and the 2022 Super League champions showed their dominance with tries from Ruby Ensright, Izzy Northup, Bethan Dainton, Tara Moxon and Sam Hume to give the Rhinos a commanding 32 points to 0 half-time lead. Their place in the semi-final was secured when Moxon, Northup and Enright all went over for their second tries of the game. Meanwhile, Captain Hannah Butcher and Maisie Carter all crossed for Lois Forsell's team. The Wigan Warriors hosted Huddersfield Giants with opening game 2 of the weekend on Sunday, with the Sportsman showing the game live. Wigan opened the scoring through captain Rachel Thompson, who was making her first appearance since returning from injury. The hosts led at 26 points to 6 during the break, arguably the try at the half coming from Grace Banks, who caught the ball close to her own line and raced the full length to score. England international Vicky Molyneux continued the Wigan charge in the second minute of second half with a try, and the Warriors scored further tries through Mary Coleman and Holly Speakman during their 46 points to 10 victory. York Valkyrie defeated Super League South champions Cardiff Demons at the LNER Community Stadium. Valkyrie took an early lead through Georgie Hetherington and inside the first 5 minutes, before Jazz Bell and Sinead Peach added tries before Hetherington crossed for a second. Tamsin Ranulph capped off a strong first half, and as Lindsay Anfield's side took a 26 points to 0 lead into the break. 3 minutes into the second half, Hetherington completed a hat-trick. Rhiann Marshall added a try before Peach got her second. Liv Gale was next up for the Yorks team to score before Hetherington capped off a fine performance with her 4th try of the season. Of the game even. And the middle game that we saw there was St Helens, as the Saints defeated Warrington at the Totally Wicked Stadium. The Saints took the lead early through Lucy McCormick's try before Darcy Scott, the Stott, extended the lead. McCorm crossed for a second try to give Saints a 16 points to 0 lead at half-time. England international Shauna Hoyle scored a second half hat-trick, while teammate Ebony Partington also got on the score sheet for St Helens in their 38 points to 0 victory. And with that, here is the women's draw for the semi-final, as it took place yesterday. Wigan will face Leeds, and St Helens versus York Valkyrie will play on the double headers for the men's semi-finals as well. I'll talk about that a little bit further on. This takes us through to the men's side of the draw, as there were quarter-finals aplenty this weekend, and the Challenge Cup continued, and it started the weekend with Hull KR 28 Salford Red Devils 10. Ryan Hall, Tanguy Zenon, who had a great game, Kane Lynette, Sean Kenny Dowell and Dean Hadley all got a try apiece for the Robins. Ron Mills, who had a good game at halfback, converted 4 of the tries scored. Tim Lifey and Joe Burgess scored off from that left edge for Salford. Matt Sneed did one conversion from the two. The second game saw Hull FC defeated by St Helens 18 points to 32. Controversial half-time red card from Josh Griffin as he allegedly mouthed his way into the referee's bank books and saw the red after initially seeing the yellow. Griffin did score a try in response to James Batchelor's try for St Helens, which opened the scoring. Andre Savelio scored on the 25th minute and Jake Truman scored on the 66th minute, while 3 conversions from 3 got Hull their 18 points. Valiantly trying in the second half, there were no match for St Helens. As I said, Batchelor scored on the 7th minute, with Conrad Hurrell, Curtis Surinam, Lewis Dodd, Jack Wellesby and James Bell all getting a try apiece. Saints lost 2 outside backs during the game, with Tommy Makinson and Mark Percival were lost early in the game due to injury. There were conversions for Tommy Makinson and a penalty for him, as well as 2 conversions from Joey Lussick that saw Saints score their 32 points. They go on to the semi-finals. Let's move on to the Sunday's game, as 4 teams were looking to join Saints and the Robins in the semi-finals, but only 2 could make it out of these quarters. First of all, it's Wigan Warriors who came away with the victory despite being down to 12 men over the Warrington Wolves, 14 points to 12. Cade Ellis was sent off early in the first half after an apparent headbutt on Stephen Ratchford that saw the Wigan man sent off from the field by Liam Moore. Toby King and Abbas Mitski got a try apiece for Wigan, and Harry Smith converted 2 from 2, as well as a penalty for the 14 points over the 2 halves. Warrington only started going with the point scoring at the 53rd minute, as Joe Bullock scored on the 53rd and Josh Thulis on the 73rd. Wigan had to hold their breath a couple of times as the video referee denied Warrington further tries, but Wigan went through. Stephen Ratchford kicked 2 conversions to get Warrington their 12 points, but it wasn't enough to see off Wigan Warriors. York gave Lee a scare in the Betfred Challenge Cup quarter-final, running the Super League High Flyers close in a 14 points to 34 defeat, and the Leopards go through to the semi-final. Although the final score did show a 20-point margin, York held a 2-score lead, 14 points to 6, just shy of an hour mark, and had the better of the first half, which saw Kai O'Donnell sent off for a dangerous throw tackle, which could possibly see him get a big ban. Zach Hardacre was also sin-binned for a throw of his own. But 28 unanswered points by the Super League side saw Lee go through to the semi-finals. Brown, off a fantastic effort of AJ Taus, Harrison got also a try, while Harrison kicked the conversion and also 2 penalties for the 14 points in the Knights' favour. Mellor in the first half, Amon, Charlie with 2 and Briscoe with 2 got the tries for the Leopards, while O'Brien kicked 2 conversions and Hardacre kicked 3. And with that, here are the semi-final fixtures for both the men's and the women's Challenge Cup finals. We know that the games are going to be played on the 22nd and the 23rd of July, Saturday and Sunday, a day after each other, but Leigh Leopards and St Helens in the men's game will be partnered up with St Helens and York Valkyrie at the Halliwell Jones Stadium in Warrington, while both Wigan sides will face Hull KR and Leeds Rhinos at Headingley the following day. All 4 games will be shown on the BBC network. Saturday showing the Hallowell Jones Stadium games, with BBC One being the men's game at 2:30, while the women's game will be played beforehand, and that will be played on the BBC Red Button at 11:45 kickoff. The following day will see the 2:15 kickoff, with the Warriors women facing Leeds Rhinos women on the 2:15, and the men's Warrior side facing Hull KR at 5 PM to close off the semi-finals. And then we know on that day which 4 teams will be going to Wembley. And with that, that is where we have to end, as there is no more rugby league stuff that I can force down you without you going all information overload. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe and share this video worldwide, as well as clicking on that notification bell for any updates or new videos that may be coming your way in the near future. Tell me what your thoughts are on today's episode in the comment section below, as there's a lot to go through and I'd like to hear your feedback. Ethan Havard new deal, that's my positive on it, and you agree with me that he could be that number 13? Have to see. Anyway, again, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to share this video worldwide. And I'll end the episode as I always do by wishing you all the very best. So please stay safe, and I'll see you in the next episode.